Welcome back to Tragic Hollywood. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Paige.
And I'm Chrissy from Residue.
Thanks so much for being here today, Chrissy. For those who may be unfamiliar with Rebecca, she was an actress who was preparing for probably the biggest audition of her life when an obsessed fan arrived at her house and shot her in the heart, killing her. Her case changed how stalking was prosecuted in the state of California, and it really has influenced so much in the 37 years since it happened. So there's going to be a lot to talk about.
When we first started speaking with you, Chrissy, about collabing, because you cover similar cases to our Tragic Hollywood segment on Residue, so it was a perfect collab. Rebecca came up pretty quickly. Talk to us a little bit about, how you came across Rebecca's case and why she was coming up for you as a case to cover on one of our podcasts in this collaboration.
A lot of my listeners have requested that I talk about the Rebecca Schaeffer case. And as you might know, I focus on made-for-TV movies and then the story behind them. So there wasn't really a made-for-TV movie created about Rebecca. And when this opportunity came up, it was the first one because I was alive at the time. I was a huge fan of My Sister Sam, had the theme song in my head all week now researching this. And I adored her. She was older than me and I just wanted to be her. I thought she was so adorable and you wanted to be her best friend. And then you hear about this happening and at the age, so it was 1989, I was around 13, 14 years old, and I just couldn't believe that something like this could happen. And so it's always been stuck in my mind, generally go back to Gen X crime. I wanted to talk about Rebecca Schaeffer, and it really did, researching this week it hurt my heart to bring it, to bring it all back up, and I just thought, okay, this is perfect for Tragic Hollywood.
I love that it was mentioned about wanting to be her best friend, wanting to be around her. Some of the interviewees, specifically her manager or agent from Oregon, where she was from, talk about this naivete, this sweetness, this kindness, to the point where she did open that door. She should never open that door and be shot. So absolutely zero victim blaming here. But it comes down to that point of this weirdo coming back to your door and that perhaps she wasn't even picking up on the weirdness. She was more so irritated with Robert Bardo when he returned. She was trying to get ready. She had the biggest audition of her career, like Natalie so perfectly mentioned, for The Godfather 3, and that would have launched her and catapulted her to A-list status. But again, it's that hometown down-to-earth part of her that I think made her so likable, so intriguing, and possibly relatable. And then you add the role from My Sister Sam, and I just think it really, again, made her really relatable. When My Sister Sam clips were kind of coming my way, it reminded me of What I Like About You with Amanda Bynes for millennials. All of our millennial listeners that, were also babies or small kids when My Sister Sam would have been out in the 80s, it was basically Rebecca's character moving in with her sister and they were going to live together. So it's kind of like Jenny Garth being this older sister and Amanda Bynes at 16 or 17 moving in with her because her parents were moving to Japan, I think, in What I Like About You. So
it's such a great comparison. That is a perfect, because in My Sister Sam, they took Pam Dauber, who was really famous for Mork and Mindy. And What I Like About You is that it's Jenny Garth so it gets the Gen X at the same time as the elder millennials pulled in. I like that comparison.
We're a power duo, Gen X and millennials, and I think that they knew what they were doing there. And it does make me wonder, right, if somebody pulling for Jenny Garth would have watched 90210 and they would have maybe been that Gen X that grew up on My Sister Sam.
Yeah.
There's no way that Rebecca didn't inspire, or that show didn't at least inspire What I Like About You. But that also just speaks to, I think, Rebecca's legacy, even before she would have reached any kind of A-list status, which she was so close to.
I mean, The Godfather 3, Francis Ford Coppola. Do you know who was in the running against her for that? The list of women, it was Julia Roberts was the first choice. Madonna auditioned, which I got my Madonna picture back here. And they said she was too old to do it. She came across too old. Oh, Winona Ryder was supposed to do it. And then they offered, and then Rebecca's on that list. That's crazy. That's like A-list. She would have just been catapulted.
Yeah, she really was on the cusp of her life turning into something completely different. And it's sad that we never got to see what it was going to be. Instead, she's remembered for something that this weirdo did to her.
Robert got to know her also from My Sister Sam, and he didn't like that she had this intimate scene in a more grown-up role. I'm not super familiar with the movie that was part of, but she basically played a kind of rich girl, and it was probably more of like a coming of age type movie. But again, she had this intimate scene and Robert didn't like that. And it was this idea. He clearly had a personality disorder. Well, we don't care about him anyways, but he definitely had one. He had narcissistic personality disorder because that devalued her in his mind. And he decided, if I can't have you, then nobody can. I watched the episode of Stalker Files. I think we all did.
Yeah, I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they told the story pretty concisely and had some really, really great interview participants. Some of the reenactments really do a great job, actually, of just painting like how dark and the evil that something like that comes from. They show these dark rooms with pictures of her everywhere and just this obsession that made him turn on her so quickly. There are a couple of super 80s things that are happening in this case. And thank goodness, like Natalie also mentioned at the top, that some of it has changed since then. But it's just wild to me that, only being 4 or 5 hours away, he gets to LA, he's walking up and down her street and asks a neighbor. And thank God it was a woman, because she was like,
she could tell, she clocked him right away that he was odd.
She clocked him right away. I wish, and I'm sure Irene did too, so I'm not blaming her, but it's like, I almost wish Irene would have just like gone to her house and been like, hey, like, be careful, or called her. Maybe she did. We don't know. We didn't hear in any interviews. And none of that's Irene's fault, but I almost wish like, gosh, but like so 80s to just be cruising up and down a street and be like, hey, have you seen this woman? And LA's going to be used to that, right? There's always up and coming people. So that was super 80s to me. But here's also the super 80s thing is he was able to have his brother buy the gun for him when he was turned around. So like, there's just so many things that didn't need to happen. And then the worst of all is he was able to hire a private investigator for around $200 back then, which is around 530 something. Don't quote me in today's money. So not cheap, but accessible. He was able to hire that private investigator who then pays the tune of like $8.50 for the driver's license information. And I cannot believe that you could just walk in anywhere and purchase driver's license information. But I mean, to be able to buy the driver's license information and it's not you, you're not a relation of an actress. Like her name was a bit known by then. My Sister Sam was still a well-known show, even though it got canceled after 2 seasons. Like it still had its following. So it's just, wow.
He did everything legally. That's, I think, the shocking part that you're trying to get to, right? He legally obtained her license with her address on it. He legally obtained the gun because, he wasn't going to be sold a gun due to his extensive history of mental illness, but he was able to convince his brother, who knew about the extensive history of mental illness, and he still purchased the gun for him, walked out of the store, handed him the gun. And I think...
Like, how about, bro, what are you going to do with the gun? Like, can we ask that?
I'm sure he had to have wondered what was going to happen with it because the family was aware of this 3-year-long obsession he had with Rebecca. And
he also had obsessions, they mention, with Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. Mm-hmm. He was trying to get to them also, but they most likely had more of a security system around them because they were such huge pop stars at the time. And I'll mention real quick that Tiffany also has a stalker type documentary about someone that was stalking her, and it's called, I Think We're Alone Now. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Which is the perfect title.
I know. And they follow her crazy that these people could just walk into the DMV and get their address. And his family, knowing that he had this crazy obsession, he had this shrine. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, they might have said this in the Stalker Files, the reason he was so in love with Rebecca is because she was the girl next door and she did answer him and she did write back to him in her own handwriting.
Oh, she sent him an autographed photo of herself. And like you mentioned, she wrote to him, but that's because back in the 80s, people who were somewhat known had fan clubs. And so he was able to join these fan clubs in order to gain access to the women that he was idolizing. And
I was in the New Kids on the Block fan club. I still have my letter. It's up here. I should have brought it. It's typed. It's a typed letter. And they all signed it, but it's like a stamped sign. It's like that the pop stars knew. We don't. But that's the thing about these stories, is that to talk about them shows you in the newer generations, like, be a little more cautious. And like you said, no victim blaming. But back then, nobody knew a strange man is walking the neighborhood. That's why it was so great that that woman knew, like, don't tell him where she lives. The DMV didn't even know. We don't tell people where other people live.
Then it seemed harmless, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't know that you shouldn't personalize these letters being sent to unknown fans. And so that was his way of building that connection with her. When she responded, it was like, okay, well, Tiffany, Debbie Gibson, see you later. We're focusing on Rebecca.
Crazy.
Another crazy thing is the fact that he traveled to Los Angeles more than once. He visited the Warner Bros. Lot more than once and was turned away by the head of security. It makes me wonder today, if that had happened, would the head of security briefed Rebecca on someone showing up, asking about her, and then returning, asking about her? Because the security guard could tell that something was not right with this guy. And he actually said, like, you need to just go home. And when he showed up again, he said, hey, I remember you. I told you to go home. You need to go home again. And he listened, but he still came back.
Didn't the security guard drive him back? Even got him in a car and drove him out of there to be taken out of the lot. And the guy still comes back. And there was a letter that he wrote, if you guys remember, to the security guard saying, like, what is wrong with you? These people spend their whole lives trying to become famous. They want us to talk to them. Like, he was angry at the security guard.
And then he let that anger be transferred onto Rebecca. I believe that was said where he was interviewed in a jailhouse interview recording. And he mentions that the anger he felt towards the security guard and having been turned away from the Warner Brothers lot eventually made its way to Rebecca.
I think there's two things here that need some adjustment. One is the security on these lots. We have seen this in other episodes we've covered before, like The Price of Glee. We covered that documentary, and they had to, on the lot, they had to build special tunnels so that the cast of Glee could freely come, in and out of set. And it's not that fans don't deserve to be fed to a certain extent of content and things like that, but like, this is work for them. They need to be able to get to and from work without being screamed at, without being touched, without everybody deserves that. And so that right there was already telling, because that is like 25 years after Rachel's even passed, where the security is like, okay, what can we do for these lots? I've been on the lots before for recordings of different like reality shows, and it seemed like there was like a process and everything, but I'm also not a crazed, stalker. And I think the other thing that needs to change, and I don't know exactly where we start, but there's a lot of really great people that we do know who do know where to start, one of which is our friend who participated in the Stalker Files, Lenora. We are at a point where you can't really do much when you have a stalker like Rebecca did until they essentially try to hurt you. Like, them being across the street with binoculars, there's not really a lot you can do. The police can ask them to please leave. Hey, you're creeping her out. Please leave. But it's not a lawful order until they literally break the law. And we're at a point where they could even like be harassing you on your lawn, and you protect yourself and you can be arrested for hurting them. It's not a safe situation right now for people with stalkers. And there's a lot of, like I said, people working on that, but it needs so much change and reform.
It's a really nuanced legal process, as we've learned. Like you're saying, a lot needs to happen for these people to get arrested, but like, you don't want to wait until that happens, right? Like, why should your life be physically in danger when this person has ill intent towards you?
My husband was like, so what do you do? And I was like, there's not really a lot. You can get a restraining order, maybe, but you can walk right through that restraining order. Call me basic, but I'm an autumn girl through and through. And as this summer winds down, it's got me thinking about all these little things that make the home feel a little more comfortable and welcoming and cozy. That's exactly what Quince does so well. They make it so easy to upgrade the spaces that you use every day with quality home essentials made from premium materials without paying any of those luxury prices. Quince has those pieces that quietly elevate your home, from plush Turkish cotton bath towels and breathable cotton and linen bedding. Everything from Quince is made with premium materials and thoughtful craftsmanship. That's because Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middleman. That way they can offer exceptional quality at prices that are 50 to 80% less than similar luxury brands. I've been sleeping on European linen sheets from Quince's home goods line for a year now, and let me tell you, they are cozy, they are breathable. I have no notes. They also just sent me their cotton fisherman's throw in the color fig. It is so pretty and also very cozy, most importantly. Elevate your everyday at home. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/diaries. Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too. That's QUINCE.com/diaries.
This part is reminding me of the Teresa Saldana case from the 80s also. This one took place in 1982, where she was also about to become the biggest up and coming. She starred in Raging Bull, Martin Scorsese. Now, he wanted her in other movies. So her stalker came from, he came from far away, Scotland. And he called her mother and said he was Martin Scorsese's assistant. How he got her mother's phone number, I believe, was through a private investigator.
Private investigators, or maybe the Yellow Pages.
It was in the phone
something.
book.
Yeah,
it was so easy. He got something from a private investigator. I talk a lot more about that case on one of my episodes because Teresa starred in her own made-for-TV movie. Now, her agent also got a call from him, and her agent was like, "No, we're not giving out her address." He said he was Martin Scorsese's assistant. He needed her address because he needed to go to her house and deliver a script. He got the address from her mother. And her mother called her and told her, "Hey, listen, I gave your address to this guy. He's coming over. He's with Martin Scorsese." But then her agent called her and said, "Be on the lookout. There's this guy trying to get your address." So Teresa doesn't really have any help. She just has to be on the lookout. And her husband's always with her and he's trying to keep her safe. And then she just feels like she's safe after a couple of weeks and he shows up at her house and attacks her. It's the most mind-blowing story because everyone knew this guy was there to do something, but they didn't have any clue how to handle it.
There wasn't a lot they could do. All they knew is this guy is looking for your address, and if the mom didn't give it to him, he probably could have gotten it from the white pages or something, because I remember even growing up, like you were listed in the white pages, which by the way are online now anyways. So, I mean, you can still
you had to call them to opt out. So
That's
you were
right.
just included until you said, "Hey, I don't want that out there," which is such an invasion of privacy.
Your phone number, your address. We've learned from stories like Rebecca's, like Teresa's, that it's not a safe thing to do, unfortunately. Maybe for most people around you, but there's going to be those stalkers. There's going to be the Robert Bardots that use it for their own advantage.
I do believe there was something in the documentary that noted that Robert Bardot did use the same MO as Arthur Richard Jackson, Teresa Saldana's stalker. He took a little bit from that. Which he was inspired by so many different things that this man was just a fanatic of everything. He was inspired by Mark David Chapman because he carried Catcher in the Rye with him to walk around Rebecca's neighborhood. There'll be a later talk about the court scene where they played a song that he wanted to play before he went to Rebecca's house. I believe it was a U2 song. And that was played in the courtroom, and he danced to it while it was played. And that's what Diane Downs did when they played Hungry Like the Wolf in the courtroom with her case with Small Sacrifices. So he was taking, and that happened all before his, so he was taking little bits and pieces, kind of mimicking these people.
Yeah, he was trying to create this mythology surrounding him.
Yes.
Why are we playing music in the courtrooms?
So they did play.
Dancing.
They would do it. And I guess, now I haven't seen the footage, but I guess when he was in the courtroom, he goes kind of wild. Like, it's very obvious that he's like dancing around to, I believe the song is called Exit. And with Diane Downs, they played Hungry Like the Wolf because her daughter remembered that Hungry Like the Wolf was playing when Diane Downs did what she did to her children. So they played it in the courtroom to see how Diane would react for the jury. And she just sat there like bopping like this. I mean, this woman tried to kill her own children, and one of them survived, and they're testifying, and she's dancing to the song. And then Robert Bardo did the same thing. And it gives me chills, like, just not even just the obsession with the actresses, but with the other bad people in the world that he deemed to basically be celebrities at this point. Diane Downs is a celebrity. He believes that Teresa Saldana's stalker is a celebrity. The guy who killed John Lennon. So he was like taking from them. And I find that part of the story is also wild to me.
Yeah, he was like Frankensteining what his image would be, taking a little from here, a little from there. That's eerie and chilling.
Especially for a 19-year-old. This is a lot of thought and practice and like research. This is, again, a 19-year-old before the internet.
That's a rough 19, by the way. I would have never expected him to be that young.
Me either. I was kind of blown away when I found that out.
Even just hearing his interview on tape, but then seeing his courtroom footage, that man is so scary. Yeah. Just speaking, that I can't imagine. So I start to get emotional, like the day that he like shows up at her door and she answers it. And to have that man there in front of you like that, talking to you the way that he is like so scary.
Let's give a little more details about that day. So it was July 18th, 1989. Like we've mentioned before, she was waiting for her audition for Francis Ford Coppola's Godfather 3. So that's what she was doing that morning. She was getting ready for possibly the biggest break of her career when the doorbell rang. And she opens the door because it turns out that even though she had an intercom on her building, it was broken. So she had to go downstairs, open the door in order to see who was there. And that's when Robert Bardo introduces himself and says that he's her biggest fan. And she's
what
like,
I think
okay.
is important too is that she had to go downstairs because the script was being delivered. And I'm not like really familiar with Hollywood, but they do bring someone over to give you the script.
They still do like a door-to-door service.
Yeah,
that's how you get it.
And so she thought, oh, the script is here, to go get it, and she can't see who's down there. It's crazy that her system wasn't working, and she was such a celebrity at the time.
And then she goes back up and she gets ready, and he had walked away, but he comes back and she opens the door again. And we don't know necessarily exactly kind of what was said, but it's been expressed that she was expressing a little bit of annoyance, like, I got to get ready. Not, hey, you're a creep, or, calling somebody in between of like, hey, this weird guy just came by. So she may or may not have even really picked up on this instability. Again, he clearly had a personality disorder or multiple. And he says, oh, I forgot to give you something. And shoots her in the heart. The neighbors then called 911, and that's how law enforcement got involved. But he fled and made it all the way back to Tucson, which is where he was finally arrested.
He was apprehended within 24 hours, but the fact that he was able to get far enough away to cross state lines is insane because he was on foot. There were witnesses that heard the gunshot. There were witnesses that saw her collapse at her doorway, and he just took off. They couldn't find him, even though they were able to say like, oh, right, a man between 5'7" and 6 foot wearing a yellow shirt. He's on foot. Be on the lookout. Nothing. And the only reason he was turned into the police is because his family heard the news about Rebecca being shot and killed. And his sister knew that he had this obsession with Rebecca, and he made his way to California. And so she's the one who made the call and said, I think you need to look at my brother.
And I'm glad she did that because that can't be easy.
No.
I mean, she grew up in the same family he did, which was extremely abusive, which does not give anybody an excuse to murder anybody. But all that to say, she understood that and grew up the same way and wasn't a murderer. So I'm very sure that, well, she knew it was right. Like, it can't be that easy calling on your brother, who, by the way, made it onto a Greyhound bus back to Tucson on his own accord. So he's just sitting there on, probably what would have been Interstate 10 on that Greyhound bus, and made it all the way back to where he was living at the time, which was Tucson, until the next day. Again, they were able to identify and get him, thank God, because the fact that he was even able to make it 4 or 5 hours on a freeway that connects California with Arizona is kind of wild already, but it just shows you how quick that they were trying to work on all of this.
And people were noticing him because he was behaving erratically. There are reports of him trying to throw himself into traffic in an attempt to kill himself. That, coupled with the fact that his sister called in.
That's how they got him.
Yeah, that's how they got him. And it was pretty quickly that he was in custody that he confessed. He wasn't going to lie about it. It came right out.
Yeah, he did have court proceedings in 1991 and then was sentenced to life in prison that he's still serving. But did you both know that in 2007, he was stabbed 11 times on his way to breakfast?
I did not know that.
In prison, I'm assuming.
Yeah, in the prison.
I didn't know that.
The suspect was basically taking one for the team because they already had 82 years to life. So they didn't have anything to lose. So even in prison, they didn't like him. And he did get some, I don't want to call it special treatment, but he did get some, let's call it like protective custody of sorts. They did kind of put him with like more like sensitive inmates. But also, look what happened. He was stabbed 11 times, but he survived. I should couple that with this. And even in 2019, he released a statement, which I will not be reading because his voice does not deserve to be heard. But so he was still around even in 2019, continuing to serve his life sentence at Avenal State Prison.
Do you think that a part of him likes the attention? I mean,
Absolutely.
He was going for it. Like you said, he was Frankensteining.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can we talk about the jailhouse interview that we all saw in the Stalker Files? Him refusing to answer some of the questions, saying, I just don't feel comfortable talking about that. And his total lack of remorse when discussing, as he refers to Rebecca's killing as the incident. Did you guys catch that he called it the incident?
Completely trivializes what he did to her. And I think also what's really sad is, as we're talking, he comes up in such a big way because she was so young. She was almost 22 years old and her career was about to take off. But being such a short life, outside of what a beautiful and, vivacious, bright light that she was, there was so much more that could have come that we could have been talking about, that we do have with some of our other episodes where we talk about these people. But he keeps coming up because he came in and he intercepted it.
And because of that, her legacy isn't her long career and all of the artistry she was able to put into the world. Instead, it was the laws that were passed in her honor. And it's so unfortunate that her death had to happen for those laws to be passed.
One of the main ones that I feel is fantastic in her honor is that you can no longer buy someone's driver's license information from the DMV or from anywhere. You will not get their address, their phone number. There are, creepy things on the dark web, obviously, but that I think is so important because that's a direct change and challenge to what happened to her.
That law that you're talking about is the Driver's Privacy Protection Act, which prevented, like you said, the DMV from releasing private addresses. And it was enacted to the U.S. Congress in 1994. So thank goodness for that. And her death also helped the prompt passing of the 1990 America's first anti-stalking law in California, Penal Code 646-9. Those are great legacies for her.
It was a start to something that answered what happened, and a start that I think even she would say we can still improve. We can still develop, especially with the development of the internet I think that we can continue to improve these. And like I said, there's a lot of awesome people out there working on that and creating awareness and are advocating in people like Rebecca's Nick. Now I kind of want to watch My Sister Sam. So I think I'm going to do that. And I want to watch that movie that she was in. Do you know, Chrissy?
Scenes from the Beverly Hills Struggle. It's the longest title. I could never get it right.
The scenes from the class struggle in Beverly Hills.
Yes.
It's like a mouthful.
There's also a movie directed by her boyfriend at the time, Brad Silberling. He made the movie Moonlight Mile, about a man who loses and grieves his fiance's death, and it's about her. I have not watched that one. I have obviously watched My Sister Sam. I've been singing like, everyone at the door. You know
that's the theme song. I know that song.
Yeah.
No, I know that. Okay, see, this is
once you hear it, you remember. I can never remember the words. That's also a mouthful of words.
I know that song. I just had no idea that was My Sister Sam. So see, now I really do need to watch and compare to What I Like About You, because I'm sure both shows are amazing. So, but I am so glad we got to collaborate, Chrissy. This was too amazing. And I think that Natalie and I are going to have to look into Teresa Saldana's case as well. Thanks to you, now we know a little bit more about that. Do you, as we close, want to let our listeners know where they can find you, Chrissy?
Yes, thank you. I am on all podcast platforms, and I have an Instagram, Residue Podcast, a TikTok, Residue, a True Crime Podcast, and Facebook, Residue, a True Crime Podcast, and YouTube, but I do not have videos yet. Those are coming.
Definitely go check her out. For Chrissy's listeners, you can check us out at the Murder Diaries Pod on Instagram and TikTok, at the Murder Diaries Podcast on YouTube. We do have one of our 3 segments that's full video.
For our schedule, Mondays, Tragic Hollywood, Tuesdays, Docu-Files, and Thursdays, a true crime case that needs your attention. Thanks for being here.
Bye. Call me basic, but I'm an autumn girl through and through. And as this summer winds down, it's got me thinking about all these little things that make the home feel a little more comfortable and welcoming and cozy. That's exactly what Quince does so well. They make it so easy to upgrade the spaces that you use every day with quality home essentials made from premium materials without paying any of those luxury prices. Quince has those pieces that quietly elevate your home, from plush Turkish cotton bath towels and breathable cotton and linen bedding. Everything from Quince is made with premium materials and thoughtful craftsmanship. That's because Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middleman. That way they can offer exceptional quality at prices that are 50 to 80% less than similar luxury brands. I've been sleeping on European linen sheets from Quince's home goods line for a year now, and let me tell you, they are cozy, they are breathable. I have no notes. They also just sent me their cotton fisherman's throw in the color fig. It is so pretty and also very cozy, most importantly. Elevate your everyday at home. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers or go to quince.com/diaries. Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too. That's QUINCE.com/diaries.
Women in Crime is a true crime podcast hosted by real criminologists.
Each episode will bring you a new female-focused case deconstructed by experts. You'll hear the stories of these women paired with the science that tells us where it all began.
Listen and learn why on Women in Crime. Listen to Women in Crime now wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jamie, host of Murderish, the podcast. On Murderish, I give you a 3D look at gripping murder cases. Just the facts, no banter. By the end of each episode, you'll know who was involved, details of the crime, and what went down at trial. Also featured on Murderish is my own personal story about the time a man followed me home at night and I found him in my bedroom. Listening to this podcast doesn't make you a murderer. It just means you're murder-ish. Listen to Murderish on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, it's Nikki Young, and if you fall asleep to true crime, welcome home. This is Serial Napper, the bedtime storybook you definitely shouldn't read to kids. Tuck yourself in, press play, and let me walk you through the story the way it actually happened. Find Serial Napper wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe keep the nightlight on.
Hey, I'm Amara, host of Black Girl Gone, a true crime podcast. For over 4 years and more than 200 episodes, I've been telling the stories of missing and murdered Black women and girls, stories that are too often ignored. These are real lives, real families, and real cases that deserve the spotlight. If you're looking for true crime with heart, purpose, and a mission for justice, this is it. Listen to Black Girl Gone on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Their stories matter, and I won't stop telling them.